Hey guys, and welcome back to Middle Earth Monday. Anyone out there who has actually actively played the Lord of the Rings miniatures game before will know that terrain is more important in this game than it is in any other. It's more important than in 40k or Age of Sigmar or anything else like that. The way characters, models, and units interact with scenery in Lord of the Rings is more akin to how it interacts in like D&D. You can take climb tests or jump tests or swim tests. If you get them wrong, you will fall over, you will drown. You're like, it is super important. You don't just, I'm gonna step up onto that ledge. Okay, roll for it. See if you can make it. And obviously the last couple of times I've shown off models or playing a few little battle reports, my mat has been fairly flat. And I didn't really have the resources when I played Lord of the Rings properly many years ago to play on the kind of table that I wanted to. But since I now have access to many 3D printers, I thought, why not have a fun little time and print out some nice rocky outcrops, something that you can climb on, shoot down from, just a few pieces of nice scatter terrain that will elevate my board to the next level. I have many other things on back order. I've got a huge order of trees coming in and bushes and shrubs, and I really want to bring my tables to life when I play Lord of the Rings, and it's very exciting. So that's what you can expect in today's video. Before we get into it though, just as always, a huge thank you to everyone out there supporting this new channel. Obviously, Media Over Hobbies is the main channel. We do have Old World Wednesday, which is another channel, and then we have Middle Earth Monday, which is this channel we are on now. Hopefully you guys are subscribed to all three of those channels. You're enjoying all the content that's coming out from all those channels and all those things. Just make sure that you're liking, commenting if you have anything to say or any questions, and making sure you're subscribed. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference. And everyone out there that spends the extra couple of bucks and supports me over on Patreon, you guys keep the lights on and the cameras rolling. So a big thank you from the bottom of my heart. Obviously, I like to give back as much as possible to everyone out there that supports on Patreon. So you get extra videos every single week. You get access to podcasts. You get access to community painting competitions and showcases and all sorts of stuff like that. And we also do giveaways every single month. This month we are giving away this, the start of a very menacing looking World Eaters army. So this entire box set will be sent somewhere in the world to one of my lucky patrons at the end of this month. So if you have a chance of winning, sign up to Patreon at any tier. Okay, without further ado, let's dive in and get started on this awesome terrain. Okay, so obviously I've been printing for the last couple of days, getting a few bits and pieces ready, and these are the rocky outcrops I decided to print out. I went for ones that are kind of interesting shapes, a lot of them with flat tops. I wanted them to be kind of climbable. I wanted them to have like perches and advantageous places to put like archers and stuff when playing certain games, or to hide from monsters in other games. I didn't use the ironing setting on my prints, unfortunately, which meant they had a couple of print lines left over, but that's okay. I knew this was the case. I'm not going to be worried with it because I really want to blend these features into the kind of ground, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So the first thing I did was spray them black, then green, then gray with rattle cans. You could just spray them gray if you wanted to. It wouldn't make that much of a difference. But I just wanted nice solid coats with a slightly green undertone. A little bit more natural, a little bit more mossy. Maybe I went a little bit too heavy on the grey, but it doesn't really matter. After this, I grabbed my textured paste, Dark Earth, and this is where we're going to help it blend into the table a little bit more. A lot of the times when you buy these things like pre-painted or pre-done, or you see other people who paint them, they're just big grey, clean rocks that they drop in the middle of the board. And I don't know about you, but anytime I've ever been out on a walk or a hike or anything like that and you see rocky outcrops, none of them are grey. They're all dirty and they're all covered in like dirt and moss and growth and stuff like that. So I definitely want to feel that with this project. There will be some grey, of course. I'm not going to just have it be giant mounds of brown hanging around the table. But anywhere where there's a flat surface where there would be over time a buildup of soil, which means there would be kind of weeds and grass and mosses growing, I added some texture paste. Same thing with like nooks and crannies and crevices. Soil and debris and dust will have built up over time, which would of course be places for things to grow. So I'm going to go on with that and kind of apply this dark texture paste to all those areas that I think growth would exist on this scene. It'll also cover up all those print lines and give me really nice surfaces to dry brush with after. Okay, when all of that paste has been fully dried and cured, it's time to start the dry brushing stage of this. And all we're going to do is two very simple dry brush stages, and that's going to give us most of the look for this. So the first one is Rise or Rust. I always have to feel like I have to justify why I use Rise or Rust in the dry brushing of most of my bases. I think it adds a really nice warm tone to it. It gives that kind of rich iron looking soil that exists. And it just works. I do a layer of Rise of Rust and a layer of bone, and I think it just looks like really nice textured ground. So as you can see, I'm going in and dry brushing up all of the soil, but I'm also not being like careful. I want to hit all the rocks as well. So basically 100% of this piece is going to get dry brush riser rock. All the rock, everything. I want to catch all those edges and make that all that kind of rocky outcrop look dirty and worn in the way it's supposed to look. This will obviously add a lot of dimension to the rock. When it's just flat grey, you don't really see all the awesome detail in it. You hit it with a very quick dry brush and all of a sudden all those details kind of pop up. Because we're not going with the kind of direction of the prints, it means we're not accentuating those print lines, which we need to be really careful about whenever you're painting over MDF scenery. And like I said, when the orange coat is all done, it's time to move on to that screaming skull technique. As you can see, it's exactly the same stage. I'm just going lighter. So I'm a little bit more control with my brush. I'm leaving less bone behind, just the kind of highest and sharpest edges. And the same thing when I use it to catch all of the stonework or along the sides. You just kind of go back and forth really lightly, just catch and emphasize those edges, and it will look absolutely fantastic. And you can see that it's already adding such an extra dimension of color to the model. It suddenly doesn't look just like a silly rock that's placed in the middle of the board. You can see how this would blend in with a table and look a hell of a lot more natural than kind of a lot of other things do with it. But obviously this is just the base for what we're really going to do and what we're really going to do to push this thing to the next level. Because I'm going to add a lot of nice natural textures, a lot of nice natural flocks and plants and bushes to all of these kind of pieces to really help them blend in, blend in with the table. And this is the favorite thing that I decided to do. This was real last minute. I had no thought about doing this. When I was thinking about doing this project, this was totally a crazy off the cuff idea. So I grabbed a 5mm drill bit, which is about the same dimensions as the tree trunk. I ripped the old bases off of those trees. I drilled holes into kind of the correct areas where I think it would be really nice to have a tree showing up. And I glued them into place. Obviously it's going to add an extra dimension to those scenery pieces once again. And like I said, it's just another place on the board where you're going to add lots of nice natural stuff, i.e. trees. Instead of seeing groups of trees all around the table and then groups of rock. And I think we've all seen trees growing out of pretty kind of strange places. So that's okay. So obviously we've drilled through some rocks for some of them, for some of the tree locations. So in order to kind of camouflage and hide that a little bit more, I'm going to be adding in this. I was going to add this in for kind of foliage and flock anyway, little shrubs around the bases. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add super glue around the base of the trees and basically disguise the connection point between the trees and the bases themselves as well, which will help immensely. All you do is add a nice and generous daub of super glue and then push this kind of, it's like sponge moss kind of stuff. And because it soaks up the super glue, it sticks very hard, very fast, and it's really nice. And I basically applied this to all those different scenery pieces. I know I haven't been showing every single one of them. It would just be repeated footage over and over again, but I am doing all 6 or 7 pieces of scenery all at the same time. And it is turning out really nice. The last step that I'm going to do is add actual flock to it to help once again blend the ground surface of these pieces in with my grass mat or my flocked mat, whatever I've got to hand to represent whichever kind of playing surface I'm using. And obviously if it's just brown patches and then you put it down onto a green mat, it's not going to look great. So I think flock is an over or underused tool these days. And for games like a Lord of the Rings, which this is primarily based for, or if you're going to play something like Silver Bayonet or any other cool skirmish game, these kind of scenery pieces are going to be awesome and they're going to look so good on the table. This flock I've had for years, and I did spill it on the floor one time, and I used a dustpan brush to clean it up. The floor wasn't very clean, so there's just bits of plastic and sprue. It's just in my flock, and I hate it. So I have to apply it to a surface and then carefully go around with it like a tweezers and pick out all the bits of crap that is not supposed to be in it. It's very annoying. I should probably get some fresh flock, but I really do like the color of that one. So we're going to continue on with that around all the different pieces, putting on grass in areas. We don't want to go crazy amounts on all of them. With this one, because it's quite low and quite flat, I am going to go quite heavy with it. But the rest of them, didn't go too heavy. And now I'm going to go through each and every one of the pieces that I did. So obviously there's 2 that kind of look very similar like this. I like that I put shorter trees on top of this. I think there's a really nice mix of the kind of bushes and the flock and the ground texture and the stone. This piece is actually left over from from Amon Hen. I did that scenery years ago, and they give you this random extra bit for the middle that I never painted up. Well, I blended into this scenery and got it all matching, so I'm really happy to have that finally done and added to the Lord of the Rings correction. This is the one that matches the first one. It's not the same piece or anything, it just looks kind of similar, but it looks really, really cool. I'm gonna go in with a little bit of footage at the end across, like sweeping across the table, talking about why this kind of scenery is really important, what it all looks like together on a tabletop. So hopefully you guys stick around for the end of the video and see my little TED talk on scenery for Lord of the Rings. I think you find it quite interesting. This next piece that's coming up after this one was actually a complete, like, last night I just decided to print one more piece that popped up on my screen, and it turned out to be my favorite piece, the one I like the most. I love this thing, it looks so cool. There's a little bit that's not supposed to be there. Lol. Okay, let's go on and talk about this awesome scenery. Okay, so here is the new elevated kind of set of terrain. Like I said, I have many more trees on back order. I have a whole host of other tree terrain that I'm trying to get through and get that organized. But yeah, this is where we're at so far. We have obviously a couple of copse of trees, which I've been using to death in the backgrounds of every single video. But I think the elevation and adding in of just something as simple as these awesome little rocky outcrops make a huge difference to the board and the play style and stuff like that. Like here's Aragorn with all of his kind of back to the wall, defending the hobbits as best he can from infiltrating ring wraiths. And all of a sudden we have two elves on their perches able to fire down or jump down and engage in fighting and stuff like that. And that just makes me happy. The idea of having some proper elevation. Legolas can jump from here down to here, but he'll have to take tests. Characters can climb up, but like it's their movement. So can you get up with 4 inches? Probably not. You'll have to go to this ledge and then to this ledge. Stuff like that. If the ring wraiths are particularly lucky and they push the characters back, you can get trapped against walls, which means that in a fight, if you lose that fight and are pushed back, you can't go anywhere, which means they get to strike you twice if you lose the fight, which is terrifying. So all those kind of rules are super important to the mechanics of the game. And unless you have things that you can interact with, then those mechanics are absolutely wasted. So like I've shown before, I think these scenery pieces turned out great. I'm super proud of them. And this one I think is particularly cool. It looks a little bit odd right now, and that's because the PVA glue and flock only went on like 20 minutes ago. So the grass never looks as kind of bright and vibrant as it does in 4 hours when the PVA glue has dried and has gone see-through. Then obviously that's a lot greener looking and stuff like that. So yeah, I love it. I genuinely want to play some games on this as soon as possible, play some scenarios and stuff. So yeah, hopefully you guys, you like it. You liked this little video making some extra scenery, and I hope you're looking forward to more content for Lord of the Rings very, very soon.